So it's now time to explain what the projects will be and what is expected from you. Well, the projects will be some interesting topic that you decide to explore using the computer and using Python. This interesting topic could be just about anything that you fancy or that your friends fancy to work on in a group. And so that could be, for instance, illustrating a theorem you see in class, asking yourself some question, some mathematical question, exploring a data set, illustrating a theorem, whatever you want. So that's the source of the question. But then what will be graded on that? Well, the answer will be that because it's human graded, everything will be graded. So I'll take a comprehensive look at your project and grade based on that. So that means in particular that I'll grade on the originality of the question. If you Google up and you see that 10 people have already implemented your idea in Python, it's not very original. And you might be in trouble as well because I will only compare only grade based on the improvement you have brought to the program of others. Okay, so not if you just copy paste an existing program, then you get 0. If you just improve a tiny bit that existing program, I'll only grade you on the difference between the two. So you'll also be graded on efficiency, although that won't be emphasized very much. So if your program is very inefficient and there are clear ways to improve it, then you might get docked a few points. But at the same time, you don't need to optimize extensively your program because that's not the focus of the course. You'll also be graded on the difficulty of what you have tried to do. So if you try to do something hard and you fail, it's probably better off. You will probably be better off than if you try to do something very easy and succeed. So something else that you'll be graded on is coding style and convention and explanations of what you're doing within the code, so documentation. So that's a very important aspect and one that's obviously very hard to grade on using automatic graders, so I'll emphasize it in the grading of the projects. And finally, and this is very important actually, I'll grade you on the explanation you give of what you try to do. So your input or your final submission should actually have this explanation coming first. You should first try to explain what the question is that you are trying to answer, how you decided to attack it, why you decided to attack it that way, what your results are, etc., etc. And only then comes the code. Of course, within the code there is some documentation, but really you should preface all your code with textual explanations or visual explanations even of what you're trying to do. I am emphasizing again that I'll mostly grade based on this explanation. The way I expect the grading to work is that I look at your explanation, try to make sense of what you did based on your text, the text that you're submitting, or the video maybe that you're submitting, or the images you're submitting, all that. And then, only then, will I look at the code. And in the code, I'll look for specific ways you did specific things, and I'll grade also on that, but I'll know what I'm looking for in the code, and if I can find it easily, it means you have documented your code well. So I hope that makes sense, and I'm happy to clarify in the discussions what I mean by all that. Okay, so how many projects are there and how will they be run? Well, there'll be in total 7 projects, with 6 going on during the term and 1 at the end. So the very first one of the 6, project A, will not be graded. Okay, so this one has no grade, and the following 5 account for 1/3 of your grade, or 33% actually, and this last one accounts for another 33%. And you can see that project A is the exception because it spans only 1 week, this week, and this is just basically a preview of how the projects will be run. So it's very important that you understand this so that you can be very effective in the later projects that will actually be graded. All the other projects will span 2 weeks. Like the project B will span weeks 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc., with some intermediate submission needed. So at halfway for project B, you should submit something to me, or you should tell me that you have something ready so I can have a look and tell you whether you're on the right track, you're aiming too high, you're aiming too low, you should use a different tool. I can give you intermediate feedback just to make sure you're on the right track. All those projects are group projects. there will generally be groups of 4. So all the projects actually will be groups of 4, except for the very first one. The very first one, we've already enough to learn how to do, enough new things to learn how to do. So I didn't want to put in too much group dynamics there. So the groups will simply be groups of 2. So grab the person next to you, on your left, on your right, whatever, and start working on project A. Now, there is some very subtle requirement that will be put in. So here, you will have 1 partner on this one. You'll have 3 partners on each of those. So that makes a total for all the projects except project Z of 1 plus 15, so 16 potential partners. But you can object that, of course, some of them might be repeated. You might be always with the same people. Well, I don't want that. I want you to change partner a lot. And the idea is to encourage mixing of the skills, and if you don't know how to do something, you can talk to someone else, and maybe this person knows or maybe not, but the next week you might be with someone else who knows. And so in this way, you'll learn more and more Python just by talking to those other people. It will also force you to organize yourself in such a way that you can collaborate on code, which is very hard to do. And this is also part of the point of the projects. So instead of the 16 potential partners, I thought at some point to impose to you to actually have 16 different partners, but that might be a bit unrealistic. So what will be required is that you have 12 different partners. So out of those 16, there should be actually 12 different names. So I hope this makes sense, but maybe not. So let me try again. If in project A, B, and C, you have always more or less the same partners, well, you're going to get in trouble. You should really have different partners for project D, E, and F, completely new partners. Okay? In project Z, you are completely free to choose these 4. So this is completely free. Now, what's the idea here? Well, I'll be totally honest. In project Z counts for a lot of points, a third of your final grade. So you want to be there with very good partners. Presumably, you will have been with those partners before in one of the previous projects. So what you want to do is you want to be reliable for them. You want to show that you are a good partner, that you work your share of the load, that you contribute to the project. So you want to do a good job in the previous projects, in project B, C, D, etc., to actually have good partners in project Z. Vice versa, if you don't do any work in project B, C, D, etc., everyone will know that they should avoid you for project Z. So I hope that in this way, the slackers will be put together in project Z and will actually have to come through together at the end, which will be very hard for them to do. So really, make an effort over the whole course to do your best so that in the end, you will have an easier time doing project Z. Okay, so that was a general picture of how the project will be run, and we'll now look at more of the technical details of what I expect from you and how to make all of this happen.